Welcome back to City Corner. Today we're talking with Adolphus Pruitt, president of the local NAACP chapter. Before break, we were talking a little bit about all of the exciting opportunities you're going to have available for people here in the St. Louis area. So let's begin there. Tell me a little bit about some of your programs you have planned for St. Louis this year.
You know, it's going to be interesting. I think that our primary focus, at least for me and the branch, is going to be dealing with what I consider to be this pipeline. I call it the pipeline of despair. And that is that we have a significant number of single mothers who have children, who are on limited resources, and they're not getting the support they need. You know, we sit up here and want to talk about the poor educational attainment. We want to talk about the rise in crime, youth violence, and all these other things. And I agree that it's a significant issue and we need to deal with it. What I want to do, though, I want to deal with it with the smaller kids in grades kindergarten through 5. It's our intent to muster up as much resources, put much pressure on everybody involved to make sure that these single mothers and these kids get the support they need from everybody and anybody who's willing to help. If we can cut off that pipeline, if we can save them there, we can keep them from evolving from this sweet child into this predator, into somebody who feels that the society has let them down or doesn't think about them. If we can stop it there, I think 10 years from now, we won't be having this discussion about our kids killing themselves or killing each other and preying on our seniors and folks like that. So first priority is to help those mothers. The NAACP is going to make sure that anybody and everybody who wants to provide support to single mothers and address the issues with these kids and make sure these kids get the nurturing and the support that they need in the younger years, that's priority one.
Right, and that sounds like that's a great place to start, because I know personally of a lot of organizations that do fatherhood support.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of fatherhood support, but you really don't have a lot of that support for single mothers after the child is born. So I think this sounds like that's a really good start.
Well, because the worst thing in the world, and I realized that I was as guilty of it as anybody else. You know, it's funny. We can see a mother with some little children come down the street, and we can look at her. And depending on where she's at, how she's dressed, how the kids dress, we draw a conclusion and reach a judgment about who she is, what she is, and what those kids are. And I told somebody, I said, even worse, some of us look at the kids like they're little roaches or something. That has to stop. We have to stop doing that to our people. Second priority is to deal with the seniors. You know, it makes no sense for anybody who has reached the age of 60, 70, 80 years old, have contributed to society all this time, contribute to the tax base, and they're renting. And then all of a sudden, they have to look up every other year, their rent is going up. And they're spending more money on shelter than they are on medicine and on food. No, shelter is the most basic need of human beings. So the fact that we have seniors struggling with a shelter issue, that has to end. So we're going to be talking about some sort of rent control legislation. We like, if we're going to use public finance to create a facility or housing for these seniors, then them having to worry about every year paying for it or the increase in rent to make it happen, and it's taken from their livelihood, that has to stop. We're going to put a stop to that. And then I guess third is going back to crime and just basic constitutional rights. We're working on an ethics project where we want to go out and we want to teach the citizens what rights they have as citizens, what the laws are. They need to understand that when law enforcement approaches them, they need to have some idea of what their basic rights are and how they need to respond. That's the only way we're going to deal with the racial profiling or some of the other miscarriages of justice that goes on around here. I'm not saying that I want to train the criminals on how to subvert the law, but bottom line is, if you take a youngster, right now, the policeman can pull up, grab a youngster off the street or anybody, put them in a car, take them to the jail, begin to question them. Accuse them of a crime, put them in the justice system, they give them a public defender, and now you got somebody who knows little anything about the law, and they facing 10 to 20 years, and they have a public defender who's overworked, underpaid, and he's sitting in front of them and he's basically saying to them, listen, based on your lack of resources, based on what evidence we think they got against you, the best thing I can tell you to do is to cop out to 5 or 10 years or roll the dice and go maybe before all white jury and get 20 or 40.
Well, but I also think, though, not only for young people, I think a lot of people don't know their rights
Exactly.
when you're pulled over by the police. So I think
Exactly.
that could be a program that wouldn't only be for that specific age group, for just anyone to be able to know your rights, what you have to tell people, what don't you have to tell, what you have to provide. I think that would kind of broaden it out a bit. How do you plan to market these programs out to the community? So how will I know that you're having a program for seniors, or you're doing something for young mothers?
Well, to deal with the youth and education, we're trying to get Congressman Bobby Scott out of Virginia to come in. He's promoting this Youth Promise Act. We want to adopt that act as sort of our martyr, bring him in, bring all of the service providers in and a lot of other people in, and start some sort of networking to actually get the information out.
What exactly is the Promise Act?
Well, the Youth Promise Act takes a look at government spending on youth programs, and it sort of re-engineers it and basically says those programs that are ineffective or not measurable, that we're constantly throwing money behind, we need to get rid of them. And we need to go out here and look and see what programs that are working, that are effective, and those are the programs we need to fund.
Okay, so so it's not necessarily creating new programs, but they're going to see what programs are working around the country and fund those.
Basically, that's one of the largest premises is that the monies and the funding is there. The funding is just not being used as effectively as it can be, or for maybe political reasons, or somebody's been doing it forever. They're getting the funding, and you may have a program that's out there that's really doing a job that is not. The gang abatement side of, we actually have had some discussions. We got a gang abatement committee. I've had some discussions with some significant members of the gang, some of the influencers, we would call them the OGs, as they want to call them. And we have some discussions with them about, hey, my position is, you're going to say this territory is yours. I'm not here to debate you and fight you on that. But if that's the case, take care of it. Treat it like it's yours. Why would anybody in your territory that you claim is yours have to worry about being robbed? Why would the women have to worry about being raped? Why would the seniors have to worry about sleeping at night? Worry about people breaking in their house? Why is the gunplay going on? And why is it safe for the children in your territory? So if you're going to claim it, I'll let you claim it. All I want you to do is make sure that those people within your territory are protected, that those kids are protected, and then we do what we need to do to make sure that that territory gets whatever public resources or do it. We're going to make sure those resources get there.
Well, and as a young person, if you were talking to a group of young people, young professionals in their 20s, why should they get involved with the NAACP? In their mind, again, that's their grandfather's organization. So what would you tell them? What's different about it now? Why should they get involved?
Well, one is that we're a civil rights organization. We have probably one of the most diverse executive committee, board directors than any entity in this city. Young, old, females, males, married, single. We got everybody around the table. So that's number one. But number two is that right now, one of the biggest fights we can really take on is the disparity in contracting and expenditures for professional services.
Oh, okay.
The city of St. Louis, St. Louis County, through all of its programs and development and stuff, billions of dollars. Less than 1/2 or 1% of that went into the hands of minority professionals. So they need to get involved, because we're ready to take on the one issue that helps them obtain what we call economic mobility. And if that doesn't interest them, then no, they might not want to be involved with the NAACP.
Well, but I think that's really interesting, because I think one of the things you'll hear a lot of young people say, young African Americans specifically, when they're moving to places like Atlanta, D.C., they say there's more economic opportunity. And I think by tackling the issue of contracts and how contracts are awarded really speaks to that, and it makes it a more level playing field.
Absolutely. The first thing they would say is, well, the African Americans don't have capacity. you cannot get capacity unless you're participating.
Right.
So
Chicken
we're going
and
to,
egg
we're going to make sure they have an opportunity to participate. We're going to make sure that those funding, because at the end of the day, it's my funding, it's your funding.
Right.
If you're paying taxes,
tax dollars.
it's our funding. If it's public incentive, it's our funding. And we're just going to make sure that the distribution of those funds, the opportunity for participation of those funds, reaches and touches those young African Americans. I don't want to lose another professional African American to lead the city of St. Louis simply because they don't feel that there's any opportunities here. But yet we're creating billions of dollars of economic opportunity for everybody else. Well, you cannot take 30%, 50% of your population, especially your middle class, especially your talented 10th, and exclude them from that economic engine. Then you want to turn around and say, well, look at North St. Louis, look at North County, it's a cesspool. Of course it is. No resources.
Right. Well, and I think I think that now we're really learning that the NAACP is changing. As I mentioned before, it's not our grandfather's organization anymore.
No, it's not.
It sounds like you have a lot of great ideas coming up for this upcoming year, and I encourage our viewers to go to the website and check it out and find out what you have coming up. And I would like to thank Adolphus Pruitt, the St. Louis City President for the NAACP, for joining us today. Thank you.